The message disappeared from the chat within seconds, but it left a scar louder than any testimonial. How do I know if I'm healing or just pretending? A simple question buried in the sea of praise. She saw it, paused, and watched it vanish, flagged by a moderator she had helped train. The silence that followed wasn't technical. It was intentional. They didn't sell answers. They sold certainty. And questions, real, human questions, were bad for business. For years, she had built a system that converted pain into profits. But now the cracks were showing. And once a single truth breaks through a wall of curated illusion, it doesn't close quietly. It explodes. She would be the one to light the fuse. The skyline of Los Angeles burned orange through the glass walls of the penthouse, as if the city itself were holding its breath. Inside, ring lights glowed, lenses focused, and Eliza Reeves adjusted her blazer with the precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Across from her, Jason stood in front of the velvet-draped backdrop that bore their brand's golden logo, Evolve Now. 3, 2. Their camerawoman, barely 20 and already fluent in clickbait psychology, signaled with a silent nod. Jason launched into his pitch. What's holding you back? Fear? Doubt? The lie that you need more time? His voice was magnetic, practiced to perfection. In just 6 weeks, our proven framework will realign your mindset and unlock your full potential. I've seen it change lives. Hundreds of them. Eliza smiled on cue. But something in her shifted. She used to believe those words. Now they tasted like glossed-over ash. Behind the camera, a monitor displayed a looping slideshow. Testimonial after testimonial. Glowing reviews. Shining eyes. Perfect transformations. Except she knew how many were staged. Scripts sent in advance. Edits that cut just before the hesitation. The truth bled through. Jason turned to her for the closing line. She stepped forward, voice smooth. This isn't just another course. This is your wake-up call. The life you're meant to live is waiting. The red light faded. Applause from the crew. Jason winked at her, then turned to his phone, already scanning metrics, conversion rates, dopamine rush chasing the next surge of sales. Eliza slipped into the adjoining room. A sleek glass table reflected her face, sharp angles softened by years of branding, a face made for thumbnails. She looked at herself like a stranger would, like one of their clients might. And for a flicker of a second, she didn't believe the woman in the reflection. Jason walked in, still scrolling. 10,000 on the wait list already. This launch is going to crush it. Do you ever wonder, Eliza asked quietly, what happens after they click buy? He smirked without looking up. They get what they paid for. Do they? Jason shrugged. People aren't paying for results, Eliza. They're paying for hope. A future. A better version of themselves. Even if it's only for 6 weeks. Her pulse quickened, but her voice stayed even. And when that version never arrives, Jason finally looked at her. Then they'll buy the next one. That's the business. She said nothing. But inside, something cracked. Not loudly, not all at once. More like a seam coming undone beneath layers of fabric. Invisible at first, but irreversible. Outside, the sun dipped below the skyline. The city's lights blinked on like eyes in the dark, watching, waiting. The rooftop restaurant shimmered with candlelight and curated laughter. Designer suits, backless gowns, the low hum of status. Jason worked the room like he owned the algorithm of charisma itself. Investors leaned in when he spoke. A man in a navy 3-piece suit grinned and said, "You cracked the human psyche, man." This is the gold rush of the decade. Eliza sat beside Jason, smiling with the kind of restraint that comes from years of knowing when not to speak. Her glass of wine went untouched. She watched Jason charm a tech executive into offering ad space on a wellness app, all while casually weaving in fictional graduate success stories. There was this woman, Jason said, divorced, 2 kids, jobless. She took the Deep Shift module, and now she's coaching Fortune 500 execs. On her own terms. The table lit up with impressed nods. Eliza said nothing. She knew the woman he referred to was a model they'd hired for a stage testimonial. She didn't even have kids. Later, in the car, Jason hummed to himself while scrolling through photos from the dinner. Eliza stared out the window at the blurred glow of downtown. How many of the stories tonight were real? She asked, not facing him. Jason barely paused. What's real, babe? The outcome? The transformation? If they believe it's possible, that's what matters. We're selling air, she said, turning now. We're selling elevation, he countered. Eliza didn't reply. At home, she sat at her desk while Jason disappeared into his office for a live stream. She opened their course platform, logged in as a client, and started rewatching the Breakthrough Toolkit, the highest converting product in their catalog. Slide 1. You are not broken. You are blocked. Slide 2. Blocks are illusions. You simply haven't aligned with your future self. Slide 3. Think bigger. Want louder. Act as if. Each phrase sounded like an echo chamber built on dollar signs. The PDFs were filled with generalized affirmations, cloaked in pseudoneuroscience. Prefrontal activation correlates with mindset shifts. Vague enough to sound smart. Empty enough to sell. She clicked into the community feedback page. Dozens of comments like, "This changed my life. Day 1 and already on fire. Manifesting miracles." On screen, a message popped up. How do I know if I'm actually healing or just pretending? Another followed. Is it normal to feel more lost after Module 2? Then, my therapist says this doesn't make sense, but I don't want to quit. The screen froze. A back-end moderator had flagged the thread. The comments vanished. Eliza sat back, the air thick around her. Jason's voice carried faintly from the next room, upbeat and intoxicating. Pain is profit waiting to be unlocked. Her stomach turned. A lie told long enough doesn't just fool others. It starts to sour the soul of the one telling it. Eliza sat at the edge of the couch, laptop balanced on her knees, a half-drunk mug of tea cooling beside her. The apartment was silent except for the occasional hum of traffic below. Jason had left early for a podcast taping. She hadn't asked what the topic was. The screen glowed with a spreadsheet of client contacts, top-tier testimonials, organized by impact and engagement metrics. She hovered over one, Jake M., labeled Breakthrough Case. In their campaign, his was the story of a man who went from suicidal burnout to six-figure consulting, thanks to Evolve Now. She clicked call. Jake answered on the second ring, voice cautious. Yeah. Hi. Jake, this is Eliza Reeves from Evolve. Do you have a minute? There was a long pause. Then, did I say something wrong? No, she replied gently. I'm just doing an internal audit of testimonial quality. May I ask, how long did you actually use the program? Jake exhaled. Honestly, I didn't. I got it free for doing the video. I needed the cash, so I read from a script your team sent. You probably know that. She didn't respond. Jake added, I thought you guys knew what you were doing. Like, maybe it actually helped people, even if I was a fake. Thanks for your honesty, she said and ended the call. Her stomach was tight. She moved to the next, Carmen F., a single mother featured in a campaign called Radical Renewal. Carmen answered through weak reception. Eliza? Wow. Is this a check-in call? Not quite. I just wanted to know, how was your experience with the program? There was a pause, then a quiet laugh. It was a letdown, honestly. I paid $2,000. The videos were nice, I guess, but shallow. No feedback, no support. And I kept feeling like it was my fault for not shifting my mindset. Her voice dropped. That kind of guilt stays with you. Eliza sat frozen. I'm sorry, Carmen. It's okay, she said. You seem genuine. I always thought you didn't know. The call ended. Eliza stared at the dark screen. Her reflection swam back, unflinching, exhausted. She closed the laptop and stood. In the bathroom mirror, her image looked foreign. Clean lines, manicured calm, but there was something gone behind the eyes. The woman who had once believed in helping people, who stayed up late building worksheets with care, was missing. What had she become? She touched the mirror, as if reaching for some proof of presence. Then she whispered, I don't want to do this anymore. Outside, the city throbbed with neon light. Somewhere nearby, a billboard with her own face lit up the street. And for the first time in years, she felt ashamed. It started with a laugh that didn't belong to her husband. Eliza had returned to the office early, her meeting canceled at the last minute. She walked the corridor past their branded Creativity Lounge and paused outside the glass-walled studio. Inside, Jason leaned casually against a high stool, grinning at their social media manager, Sierra. She was young, sharp, and wore ambition like perfume, visible even in how she angled her body toward Jason. Eliza watched as Sierra laughed too hard at something Jason whispered. Then he reached out and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. It was small, subtle, but not professional. Eliza walked away without saying a word. That night, silence stretched between them like barbed wire. Jason was buried in his phone again, half listening to a live stream replay. We hit 40K on the last drop, he mumbled. She set down her glass, carefully. I saw you with Sierra today. Jason didn't look up. Okay. You touched her. Now he looked. Are you serious? It's a team. We bond. You know how this works. I'm not asking how it works, she said. I'm asking if you still respect me. He smirked, and something in her unraveled. You think everything's about you, Eliza. But this business is what feeds both of us. You've been off for months. If you're burned out, just say so. She stared at him. Don't twist this. You're not just bending the rules out there. You're breaking them. With people, with ethics, with me. Jason's voice dropped to something harder. You want out? Fine. But don't pretend you didn't ride this all the way up with me. You stood on stage. You smiled for the camera. You cashed the checks. She didn't cry. Not then. But when he disappeared into his study again, she sat at the kitchen counter and scrolled through his messages, ones she hadn't dared to look at until now. They were there. Dozens. Sierra. Someone named Layla. Another string of hearts, suggestive photos, inside jokes. She stared at the screen until the shapes blurred. By morning, she packed a bag. She didn't tell him. Didn't slam the door. She just left. That evening, Eliza sat in a quiet Airbnb in Echo Park, a suitcase by the door and a single desk lamp casting shadows across the floor. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jason. You're making this harder than it has to be. Let me know when you're ready to be rational. She turned the phone face down. The air smelled of lavender and cheap detergent. The silence felt honest. For the first time in years, she had no plan. But she had something else. A beginning. And the sharp, unfamiliar edge of freedom. The ad found her at 2:17 a.m., glowing at the bottom of a meditation podcast. Lost your direction? Reclaim your power in just 3 days. Women only. Limited seats. The face on the screen was familiar. Miranda Brooks, former TV anchor turned self-made transformation coach. Regal posture, flawless skin, eyes that promised rebirth. Eliza hesitated. She knew the type. Hell, she had been the type. But the pain was raw, the silence too heavy. And Miranda didn't promise success. She promised restoration. At sunrise, Eliza paid $5,000 for a virtual seed in the Reinvention Intensive. The welcome email was warm, handwritten in tone. You've taken the first brave step back to yourself. The schedule arrived. Day 1, wounds into wisdom. Day 2, aligning with the future you. Day 3, ascend. The modules were video files. Pre-recorded. No interactivity. Still, Eliza showed up. She lit a candle. Took notes. Listened as Miranda's smooth voice told her. Pain is proof of purpose. Another line. Don't confuse exhaustion with failure. Your power is simply dormant. It sounded right, even poetic. But as the hours passed, the structure cracked. The group chat was a forum with moderators who answered in sweeping platitudes. On screen, a message popped up. I feel overwhelmed. Is this supposed to happen? The reply. Overwhelm is your old self resisting your awakening. Stay present. Another woman asked, what if I don't know what I want anymore? Response. The fact that you're asking means you're already aligned. Eliza waited for the live Q&A. It never happened. Day 2 came and went. More recordings. More sweeping declarations. The universe rearranges itself for brave women. If your reality doesn't serve you, redesign it. By day 3, Eliza stopped taking notes. During the final module, Miranda appeared in a white robe beside a pool, palm trees swaying behind her. The past no longer defines you, she whispered. If you're ready to step fully into your power, we invite you to the next level, Awaken Legacy, an exclusive mentorship, only $12,000. Eliza stared at the screen. There it was, the inevitable upsell. The same mechanics. The same bait. Only now, she was on the other side. She closed the laptop. The room was silent. Her candle had burned out. The scent was gone. She'd come seeking healing. Instead, she found a mirror. And in it, her own reflection asked, how did you fall for it again? Eliza replayed the day 2 video again, this time not to listen, but to watch. Minute 14:27, Miranda paused mid-sentence. A sparkle emoji appeared in the corner of the screen, then vanished. Minute 15:49, chat comment repeated verbatim from earlier. This just cracked me wide open. She scrubbed back. Rewatched. Confirmed. It was a loop. She opened a separate window and screen captured the sequence. Then another. In every live video, comments scrolled too perfectly, like a reel designed to simulate community. No typos, no doubt, just applause, emojis translated into words, applauding wildly, sending hard energy, sobbing in the best way. Eliza's breath caught. Her hands tingled. She opened the forum and posted. Has anyone noticed the chat loops during the live videos? Within minutes, the thread was gone. Not flagged. Erased. She tried again, this time softer. Loving this space, just wondering, is Miranda really live with us? The reply came in seconds. All content is energetically aligned with Miranda's presence. Time is fluid. The words felt algorithmic. not spiritual. Robotic comfort designed to shut down critical thought. She clicked on a Minter profile, Delia Loves Truth, and reverse searched the profile picture. Stock photo. Page 1 of a wellness image bank. A sharp, cold clarity cut through the last of her denial. She wasn't just disappointed. She was conned. And she, who had helped design the evolved now feedback matrix, the automation, the pressure tactics, the emotional scaffolding, had walked into it willingly. On screen, a message popped up in the general chat. Feeling reborn. So grateful for this divine container. Eliza typed a reply. You are being manipulated. These chats are fake. The mentors don't exist. Miranda isn't here. She hit send. Nothing happened. No error. No response. Just a blinking cursor. Then her account logged out. She tried to re-enter. Password rejected. She'd been locked out. Her chest tightened, not with rage, but shame. How had she fallen for this again? With all she knew? With everything she'd seen from the other side? A new thought landed, quiet and sharp. If this could happen to me, how many others are drowning right now, thinking they're being saved? She opened a new browser window and created an anonymous account. Username, Realign Truth. Bio, former believer. Now a witness. She uploaded the screen captures, listed inconsistencies, tagged key phrases Miranda had used across all modules. She ended with a single line. Hope deserves better. The post went live. In minutes, it began to spread. And somewhere in that motion, in the risk, in the voice, Eliza felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not anger, not grief, a spark. By dawn, her post had gone viral. Shared across forums, messaged between private accounts, screenshotted and stitched into long Twitter threads. Within hours, comments flooded in. Not just likes, not noise, but stories. One woman wrote, I maxed out 2 credit cards to join Awaken Legacy. Now I'm still stuck, just with more debt. Another, I kept thinking it was me, that I wasn't ready to receive. Thank you for saying it. And another, I told my therapist what I was doing. She told me to run. I didn't listen. I wish I had. Eliza read each message like a confession she didn't know she'd been waiting for. She hadn't been alone in the lie, just one of the first to look it in the eye. Then a DM arrived. Plain. No profile picture. You don't know me, but we met once at a conference. Name's Tom M. I've been watching this industry rot from the inside for years. You have a real shot to shake something loose. Want to talk? Tom M. She remembered the name. A psychologist turned whistleblower who'd been laughed out of panels for saying transformation culture was just repackaged marketing. They met later that afternoon, walking the Venice Beach boardwalk. Sun low, air sharp with salt. Tom looked older than she remembered. Lined face, threadbare hoodie, but his eyes were focused. Real. This industry's immune to facts, he said. You know that. The logic doesn't matter. The dream sells better. Eliza nodded. I used to believe in it. At least part of it. Most of you did. At the start. He pulled out a folder, printed reports, screenshots, a diagram tracing the connections between Miranda's programs and a web of shell companies, marketing collectives, affiliate scams. They build echo chambers, Tom said. Layered belief systems. Once you're in, every doubt becomes another reason to double down. It's emotional entrapment. Eliza studied the diagram. Threads ran from Miranda to other faces she recognized. Men in sharp suits, women with soft voices and hard algorithms. It wasn't just one lie. It was an architecture. She looked up. What if we didn't just expose it? What if we told their stories? Tom raised an eyebrow. The people who got hurt. Not just numbers. Not just screenshots. Actual lives. Let them speak. Like a documentary? More than that. A reckoning. Tom smiled. Small, tired, but real. You serious? She nodded. And in that moment, amid the crash of waves and shouting children, a different kind of plan began to take shape. Not for revenge, not for closure, but for truth. With faces, with names, with witnesses. They hit back fast. Within 48 hours of her anonymous post gaining traction, Eliza's name trended, not for her work, but as a disgraced ex-coach with a vendetta. A slick video dropped on Miranda's official channel titled The Truth About Eliza Reeves. It was glossy, cold, and deliberately vague. Clips of Eliza from old live streams, her selling breakthrough toolkit, her talking about rewiring your belief code, were played over slow piano music, intercut with text overlays, manipulative, unstable, envious. On screen, a message flashed during the premiere. This woman is a wolf crying wolf. The comment section filled with messages. She cashed the checks. Now she cries betrayal? Another burned out fake blaming others. Eliza watched it alone, in silence. Then came the cease and desist, delivered by courier to her apartment. The letterhead was thick and expensive. Legal threats, accusations of defamation, a formal demand to remove all content disparaging Ms. Brooks and associated entities. And then Jason called. She hadn't heard his voice in weeks. I saw the video, he said. Rough stuff. She didn't reply. I can help. Make this go away. She laughed. You're offering legal cover now? I know how they move. If you step back, publicly, I can talk to some people. Get this dropped. And the price. His tone flattened. You know the price. Go quiet. Let it fade. Save your name. Eliza stared out the window. That name isn't worth saving if it has to kneel to people like you. He sighed. You're turning this into a war. No, she said. I'm turning it into a story. One people deserve to hear. That night, she met with Tom, Carmen, and Jake in a dim co-working space downtown. They spread laptops across a table, cables tangled, energy raw. Are we sure about this? Carmen asked. Going public means everything changes. Eliza looked at them. We've been changed already. We just never gave ourselves permission to say it out loud. They launched the first episode of the docu-series under a simple name. Selling Dreams. Episode 1, The Mirage Economy. Eliza sat on screen, no filter, no studio light. Just her voice steady. I helped build a machine that sold people a version of themselves they could never reach. Not because they weren't capable, but because we set the target just out of reach, by design. Cut to Jake's story. Carmen's. A teacher in Ohio who lost her pension trying to start her legacy. The video spread. 100,000 views. Then 500. Then 1 million. And beneath it all, the comments shifted. Finally, someone said it. This is the content we needed, not the lies we bought. Eliza, thank you. It wasn't safety, but it was movement. By week 3, Selling Dreams wasn't just a docu-series. It was a movement. Each new episode pulled back the curtain on a different corner of the industry. False scarcity tactics, emotional manipulation through trauma marketing, affiliate networks masked as organic communities. Tom narrated with clinical clarity. Carmen edited like a surgeon. Jake coordinated outreach to those ready to speak. They worked out of a gritty co-working space that smelled like coffee and electricity. There were no marble desks, no candles, no affirmations on the wall. Just purpose. Eliza sat in the corner, writing scripts, answering messages, fielding press inquiries. Her inbox overflowed. I used to think it was just me. Can I share my story anonymously? You have no idea how much this saved me. One message stopped her cold. He's unraveling. It was from a former assistant on Jason's team. Attached were screenshots. Jason's Slack messages ranting about betrayals, staff turnover, spiraling numbers. Sponsors had pulled out. Paid subscribers were dropping. And still, Eliza hadn't gone after him directly. But maybe it was time. She logged into an old Google Drive, an archive Jason never bothered to secure. It was all there. Pre-written, authentic testimonials. Fabricated email chains used to justify ad claims. A private deck titled Emotional Triggers That Convert. She compiled it into a 10-minute expose. Episode 4, The Architect. She opened with footage of her and Jason on stage at a 2019 conference. Him charming, her nodding. Then a cut to the receipts, slides, scripts, Slack messages. In one clip, Jason says during a team meeting, if they feel a little broken, they buy harder. Make sure the messaging touches shame before hope. The video dropped at midnight. By morning, Jason was trending for all the wrong reasons. Brand accounts distanced themselves. Former clients demanded refunds. One affiliate partner issued a formal apology, cutting ties. Jason posted a shaky selfie video. People are twisting what I said. We helped thousands. But the comments drowned him out. Eliza, watching from her desk, didn't feel triumph. Just stillness. Like pulling a knife out of a wound. Not healing, but stopping the damage. She turned to Tom. They'll come harder next. Tom nodded. That's fine. We're not building a brand. What are we building then? He looked up. Something that doesn't need to lie to survive. Eliza smiled, not the glossy one from old thumbnails. A tired, real smile. And in the corner of the co-working room, beneath bad lighting and humming routers, a quiet revolution kept writing itself. The Vision Tech Summit was Jason's arena. 3 years ago, he'd closed the event with a standing ovation, talking about visionary ecosystems and scaling inner alignment. This year, his name was still on the banner, the keynote spot still his. But the energy had shifted. In the green room, Jason stared at his reflection, adjusting the mic clipped to his collar. His assistant hovered near the monitor, whispering stats that didn't stick. Ticket sales were down. 2 sponsors had backed out. But the room was still full. That was what mattered. He could still win them back. Out in the audience, Eliza sat in the last row, hoodie up, badge under a different name. The stage pulsed blue. Jason walked out to scattered applause. Fewer cheers, more hesitation. He started strong. Old rhythms. Same fire. We're not here to play small, he declared. We're here to rewrite the limits of our reality. But then, halfway through a story about one brave client who overcame the impossible, a ripple moved through the crowd. Phones vibrated. Heads turned. Eliza's team had gone live. On a split-screen broadcast above the stage, a new video appeared. Selling Dreams. Episode 5, Hope Merchants. Jason froze. The audience watched as footage played. Voice recordings, screenshots, receipts. A full anatomy of manipulation. Former clients spoke, faces on camera. A single mother. A trauma survivor. A man who attempted to take his life after believing his failure meant he wasn't manifesting hard enough. Jason stepped forward, voice strained. This is slander. This is a coordinated attack from people who can't handle success. But the microphone caught a different sound now. Someone in the front row stood up. Then another. Then another. A woman called out, "I paid for your course when I was grieving my father. You promised healing. I got silence." A man near the center. "You used our pain as content." On screen, a final quote appeared beneath Eliza's voice. Truth doesn't scale, but it survives. Jason tried to speak, but the audio cut. Security stepped in, not for Eliza, but for order. She stood at the edge of the aisle, not gloating, just watching. Later, she walked outside alone. The Los Angeles sun had that washed out, too bright clarity that comes after rain. A notification buzzed on her phone. Investigation into digital coaching ethics launched by Consumer Protection Board. She turned it face down. This wasn't closure. There was no perfect end scene, but it was something like gravity returning. A man had fallen, but more importantly, people were starting to stand. The apartment was too quiet. Not the penthouse she had shared with Jason. This was the first one. A pre-fame one-bedroom above a laundromat in Silver Lake. Eliza hadn't been back here in years, but when the leaseholder, an old friend, offered it for a month, she said yes before thinking. The walls still had faint outlines from posters she once taped there. In the corner sat a warped desk where she drafted her first self-help workbook back when she printed them at Staples. She dropped her bag by the door and moved slowly, fingertips brushing the surfaces like artifacts. This wasn't nostalgia. It was something rougher, a quiet reckoning. She opened an old plastic bin shoved under the bed. Inside, notebooks, flash drives, printouts. A journal labeled Framework, rebuild in her own handwriting. The first real idea she'd had, before Jason, before branding took over. She flipped through it. Bullet points about grief integration. Thoughtful, cautious modules. Footnotes from actual research journals. No buzzwords. No sparkle. Just structure, empathy, effort. She pressed her palm to the page. That night, she opened one of the drives on her laptop. Folders bloomed open, raw footage from early days. She watched an unreleased clip from a 2016 beta course. Herself, makeup smudged, hair in a bun, talking plainly to a webcam. "I don't have the answers," her younger self said. "But I think we need better questions. Questions that don't make people feel like they're failing for being human." Eliza blinked. She'd buried this version of herself under thumbnails and taglines. Later, in the kitchen, she sat on the floor with a glass of water, lights off. Just the hum of the fridge. She scrolled through the Selling Dreams comments out of habit, but stopped when she saw a message from a stranger. "I used to believe you were part of the problem. Now I think you might be part of the cure. Just don't disappear on us." Eliza closed her eyes. No euphoria. No cleansing tear. Just breath. And something like gravity, rerouting her to her own skin. The past didn't need rewriting. It needed witnessing. She opened her notebook. Scribbled a new title across the top. Rebuild. A course for the broken that doesn't pretend to fix them. Below it, one line. Healing isn't a headline. It's a practice. The name came to her in a dream. Reclaim. Not flashy. Not engineered to convert. Just a verb. Quiet. Active. Human. By morning, she'd sketched the bones of it. An education platform for recovery. Not from trauma, but from the illusion of self-perfection. A place for people to relearn trust after being sold betrayal disguised as empowerment. She shared the idea with Tom, Carmen, and Jake on a morning call. No fanfare, just coffee cups and tired voices. "We need more than exposure now," Eliza said. "We need reconstruction." Tom leaned back. "You want to make a platform that doesn't pretend to save people?" I want to build one that reminds them they never needed saving. Carmen smiled softly. Let's do it. The platform's first initiative was small, a pilot program called Ground Zero. It offered verified resources for those who'd lost money, time, or identity to exploitative self-help systems. Licensed therapists volunteered hours. Moderated forums opened with strict no-sell rules. Then the stories poured in. A high school teacher from Kansas wrote, "I was told my depression was a mindset issue. I nearly went off my meds to align my vibration. Thank you for telling me I wasn't broken." A military vet posted, "They told me I couldn't be a real man if I processed grief. Now I know that's a lie." And a young mother, "I sold my wedding ring to join a feminine abundance mastermind. I'm still paying off the debt. But today, I signed up for nursing school instead." These weren't data points. These were returnings. People finding language for pain that had been marketed as failure. Eliza worked 12-hour days. No ring lights, no team of stylists, just her and her laptop. Each story sharpened her purpose. Meanwhile, the media finally caught up. A national outlet published a feature, From Wellness to Wake-Up Call: How Eliza Reeves Became the Voice of Accountability in Digital Self-Help. Still, not all responses were kind. In forums and fringe platforms, defenders of the manifestation industry called her bitter, accused her of killing dreams, suppressing female ambition. But Eliza had already heard every version of that lie. She didn't need to argue anymore. She just kept building. And in the code, in the calls, in the quiet work of witnessing, something took root. This wasn't her comeback. This was a return. It started with a thumbnail. Carmen was editing a testimonial from an anonymous user, one of dozens submitted to Reclaim, when she paused the footage to fix a color imbalance. Behind the subject, on a bookshelf, sat a small plaque, BFA, Visionary Broadcasting Fellowship, the same one Miranda Brooks once flaunted in her videos. Carmen zoomed in. Same shape, same script, but the testimonial wasn't from a follower. It was from a former employee. The discovery led them to a rabbit hole, metadata on Miranda's digital assets. Dozens of stock photos relabeled as mentors, duplicate modules repackaged as exclusive offerings, and invoices tied to shell corporations that funneled payments to the same holding group, New Horizon Strategies, LLC. Tom's eyes narrowed as he scrolled through the data. It's not just Miranda. It's a network. Names surfaced. Eliza recognized them. A glow-up guru with 5 million followers. A trauma alchemist selling $50,000 masterminds. A couple branding themselves as spiritual wealth engineers. All linked through the same back-end infrastructure. The masks weren't slipping. They were mass-produced. Jake mapped the connections into a visual diagram. Carmen overlaid it with promotional quotes and timelines. The result looked like a spider's web, spun from promises and coded in algorithmic gloss. Eliza stared at it in silence. "We can't bury this in another episode," she said. "We need a confrontation." Tom raised an eyebrow. "How public are we talking?" "Debate. Live. Full view." It was a risk, but they made the call. Reached out to Miranda's team with a formal invitation, an open panel on digital ethics and consumer rights. Public. Moderated. Streamed across every platform. To their surprise, Miranda agreed. The event aired live a week later. Miranda appeared calm, radiant as ever, flanked by her legal rep. Eliza wore a black sweater, no makeup, notes handwritten on a legal pad. The moderator kept it civil, until Eliza pulled out an affidavit from a former producer. Did you or did you not instruct your team to plant false testimonials in your Ascend Mastery course? Miranda's smile froze for half a breath. We allow creative amplification in service of a greater result. And do you consider it ethical, Eliza continued, to coach your affiliates to use personal trauma as a marketing hook? Stories sell, Miranda said, voice tightening. If people heal through that story, does it matter who told it? On screen, comments exploded. She's not answering the question. This feels rehearsed. Wow, this is cult logic in real time. And then, unexpectedly, Miranda's former producer, scheduled only as a silent witness, spoke up. She told us to exploit pain. Her exact words were, desperation converts. I have the recordings. Silence. Then a tidal wave. The stream cut, but the damage was done. The masks hadn't just slipped. They shattered. The envelope was hand-addressed, the kind of script someone uses when trying to look steady. No return label. Just her name, in ink that bled slightly from too much pressure. Eliza opened it cautiously, half expecting legal threats or anonymous bitterness. Instead, it was Jason's handwriting. Eliza, if you're reading this, it means I've finally stopped trying to fix my image long enough to try fixing myself. She sat down, letting the paper rest on the kitchen table, the weight of it heavier than it looked. I'm at a facility in Arizona. No PR rehab. Real one. Group therapy, silence, eye contact, the whole terrifying thing. She read on. I kept telling myself I was helping people, that I was just a better salesman than most. But the truth? I was addicted to belief, other people's belief in me. It felt like love I didn't have to earn. I saw your video, the one with the stage clip. You looked free, like the person I used to pretend I could be. Eliza paused, the words catching in her throat. I've hurt people, not just our clients. You especially. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't get to want that anymore. But if I ever do something that actually helps someone, really helps, I want it to be because I learned, not because I branded my guilt. The letter ended simply. No comeback planned. No book deal. Just a quiet apology from one human to another. Jason. Eliza folded the paper once, slowly. Not out of ritual. Just to give her hands something to do. Outside, the city hummed. Somewhere, a siren. Laughter from a neighbor's open window. She didn't cry. She didn't feel relief. But she did feel a loosening, like tension uncoiling from the back of her ribs. She got up, made tea, and stared at the mug while the water boiled. This wasn't forgiveness. That would come later, maybe. Or maybe not at all. But it was a door closing without slamming. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel the need to open another one right behind it. She took the letter, tucked it into a folder marked archive, and placed it on the shelf. Not to be reread. Not to be framed. Just to be kept. Because some endings don't require closure. Only the decision to stop writing the same chapter twice. The office was small, barely more than a converted artist's loft in Atwater Village, but it felt alive. Desks of mismatched wood, post-it notes curling at the edges, a coffee pot that refused to stop hissing. At the center of it all, a whiteboard that simply read, Reclaim. Real people. Real tools. Real healing. The launch was days away. Eliza sat at a communal table, sleeves rolled, a pen tapping absently against a legal pad. Across from her, Carmen tested the onboarding video flow while Jake tweaked the review filters to block spam without censoring vulnerable language. Found a typo in the confirmation email, Carmen called. Says you're worth of this work instead of worthy. Eliza smiled. Maybe that's the real message. Laughter, not forced. Not ironic. Just simple, tired joy. The first course on the platform wasn't flashy. No cinematic trailers. No urgent countdowns. Just a quiet page titled, Groundwork, a psychology of returning to self. It was built from her old notes, restored with care. Every module was reviewed by licensed therapists. Feedback was live, real-time, unedited. No scarcity tactics. No spiritualized sales. Just presence. For promotion, they didn't hire influencers. They reached out to people who had spoken up, those who had lost faith but still believed in human connection. A slow campaign grew, not a brand, but a ripple. Stories came in again, from Ava, 27, who left a toxic course that told her pain was her fault. From Dennis, 53, who thought he'd aged out of starting over. From Noor, 35, who once equated her worth with how well she could sell herself online, and now wanted nothing more than silence and space. Eliza didn't reply to every message. She didn't need to. She just read them, like prayers that didn't ask for miracles, just to be heard. At the end of the day, she stepped outside. The air carried the smell of jasmine from a nearby garden, a breeze cooling the back of her neck. A voice called after her. One of the new interns, nervous, bright. Eliza, that Ava you mentioned? She sent a follow-up. Eliza turned. She said, I thought I was broken. Turns out I just needed someone not to fix me. The sky above her was a flat gold, dusk softening the edges of everything. She didn't reply right away. Then finally, she whispered, not to the intern, not even to herself, but to whatever fragile light remained in the world. Then maybe we're doing it right. Berlin smelled like wet stone and espresso. Eliza stood at the edge of the conference stage, watching her name flash across the screen. Digital Ethics and the New Self, a keynote by Eliza Reeves. She never liked the word keynote. It sounded too final, too polished. But here she was, mic clipped, palms dry for once, about to speak to a room full of academics, technologists, and former marketers turned skeptics. Her slides were minimal. She didn't need drama, just facts, stories, and silence in the right places. She began with a confession. I sold dreams, she said. We all did in some form. I packaged transformation into a product and promised it could be bought. Murmurs. Pens paused. Some nods. But what we didn't say, she continued, was that many of those dreams came with expiration dates, hidden in the fine print of emotional exhaustion and economic guilt. The room leaned in. Afterward, the line of people who approached her wasn't just polite, it was raw. Professors asked about regulatory models. Activists offered collaboration. But most of all, there were quiet thanks, spoken like benedictions. Then came Laura, mid-40s, crisp white shirt, eyes like cracked glass. You don't remember me, she said. But I bought your Elevate Plus course 3 years ago, right after my divorce. Eliza blinked. I'm not sure I do, but I'm glad you're here. Laura didn't smile. I quit therapy because your platform made me think I was resisting my growth. I lost months. My son pulled me back. Not your course. Him. Silence. Eliza stood still, hands at her sides. I'm so sorry, she said quietly. I won't defend it. Or myself. Laura's jaw tightened. Good. Don't. Then, softer, you're doing something now. Just don't make this another brand. Eliza nodded. I won't. Laura walked away. Later, in her hotel room, Eliza stared at the ceiling. She didn't cry, but her chest ached with something sharp and earned. That night, she pulled up her laptop and opened a new folder, Witness Library. A digital archive, not for testimonials, for truths, stories unpolished, unpromoted, just people reclaiming their voice without filters or funnels. She wrote the mission line, for those who never got the microphone. As she typed, her inbox dinged. A journalist had written, "We're seeing a shift in trust metrics across digital education. Would love your insight." She closed the laptop. The work could wait. For now, she sat in a city that didn't know her face, under a sky clean of slogans. And for the first time, she didn't feel like she had to explain herself to exist. The banner read, "Ground Zero, a recovery space for the reframed self." The first in-person program was underway, hosted in a modest building near downtown Pasadena. No stage, no LED lights. Just folding chairs, coffee, and human breath. Eliza stood near the back, arms crossed loosely, listening as participants introduced themselves in the opening circle. "I thought I was too broken to ever trust again," said a woman with copper-red curls. "Turns out I just didn't know what trust looked like outside a sales funnel." Laughter rippled, not the forced kind, the kind that healed something. One participant, mid-20s, quiet, deliberate, stood and said, "I paid $5,000 for a fear detox retreat where we weren't allowed to ask questions. When I raised my hand, they made me journal for resistance. I haven't trusted my own doubts since." She sat down. Applause. Carmen leaned over and whispered, "This is working." Eliza didn't reply right away, just nodded. That afternoon, in the co-facilitator's room, they debriefed with licensed therapists. Each module was reviewed not for emotional resonance, but for psychological integrity. Real questions, real boundaries, one therapist noted. "No metaphors masking harm. You're setting a precedent here." Later, in the hallway, Eliza saw a familiar face. Carmen, holding a clipboard and laughing with one of the newer attendees. "You're not just coordinating anymore," Eliza said. Carmen shrugged. "I'm applying to grad school. Clinical psych. Never thought I'd go back. But this place makes me want to." Eliza's smile was quiet, but full. "You'll be a force." Carmen glanced at her. "You think we'll last?" "You mean the program?" "No. Us. This refusal to lie." Eliza leaned against the wall, thought for a long moment. "We won't be perfect, but if we center people instead of profits, we'll stay human. That's more than most systems can claim." Across the room, a young woman stood by the welcome table, nervously flipping through a printed guidebook. She turned toward Eliza. "Hi, I'm Ava," she said. "I emailed you once. You probably don't remember." Eliza blinked, then stepped closer. "I do. You said you thought you'd lost yourself." Ava nodded. "And now, I think I'm finally just getting to know her." The sun through the windows caught the dust in the air, making it shimmer for a moment. Eliza didn't respond with inspiration or affirmation. She just said, "Welcome," because that was the only truth that mattered now. The thumbnail looked harmless. A blurred screenshot from one of Eliza's old webinars, circa 2018. Ring light too bright, voice thick with scripted warmth. The title was not From Savior to Saboteur, the real Eliza Reeves. A YouTuber known for commentary and deep dives had released a 22-minute exposé dissecting Eliza's past clips. Her voice urging followers to lean into fear as fuel, her eyes wide with conviction as she promised results. Phrases like, "You're not stuck," "You're uncommitted," now sounded cruel in hindsight. The video cut between old footage and recent interviews, some with critics, others with people claiming to be disillusioned by Reclaim's softer approach. Comments poured in. So she's just rebranded guilt as growth? Funny how they all find ethics after the money dries up. New cult, different coat. Eliza watched it once. No rewinds. Then, in a quiet studio lit only by a desk lamp, she opened her laptop and hit record. No intro. No branded music. Just her, looking directly into the lens. You've probably seen the video, she began. And most of what it shows is real. That's me. In full performance. I said those things. I believed them. Until I didn't. She paused. Let the silence sit. I'm not here to defend my past. I've already done that too many times. Internally, mostly. What I can do is take responsibility. And keep building spaces that don't depend on someone pretending to be above pain to lead others through theirs. She leaned forward. Accountability isn't a headline. It's a habit. She ended the video without fanfare. Uploaded it to the Reclaim channel. Titled it simply, I was wrong. I'm still learning. By morning, it had 300,000 views. The comment section was mixed. Some asked hard questions. Some expressed cautious gratitude. But what struck her were the ones that weren't about her at all. This made me want to ask myself where I've avoided honesty. Not sure I trust her yet. But at least she's not hiding. Maybe this is what leadership looks like now. Later that day, Eliza walked into a Ground Zero group session. Someone had printed her quote on a note card and pinned it to the community wall. We don't need perfect people. We need real ones who refuse to disappear. She smiled, but not out of relief. It wasn't over. There would always be shadows. But now, she could meet them in the open. The California state capitol didn't feel like a battlefield. Its corridors were too quiet, too polished, light catching on marble floors and press cameras. But to Eliza, standing outside Senate Chamber Room 204, clutching her prepared remarks, it felt like the sharpest frontline she'd faced. Today was the public hearing for the Digital Mentorship Integrity Act, a bill drafted with consumer advocates and mental health professionals. Its goal, to hold online coaches accountable, mandatory disclaimers, proof of certification, a ban on pseudoscientific claims in marketing. A year ago, she never would have imagined herself here. Not as a defendant, not as a brand. As a citizen. Tom joined her in the waiting area, adjusting his tie like it had teeth. Media's out in full force. You sure you're ready for this? She gave him a small smile. No, but that's probably a good sign. The hearing room was full. Lawmakers, skeptics, supporters, and cameras pointed like loaded questions. When Eliza stepped to the microphone, the silence tightened. I used to sell transformation like a product, she began. I've watched people trade groceries for dream packages, go into debt chasing healing that was promised but never delivered. She paused. I'm not asking you to ban hope. I'm asking you to regulate exploitation that hides behind its language. Throughout her testimony, she read aloud quotes from real victims. No embellishments. No editorializing. Just grief. Just impact. When questions came, she answered clearly. Cited data. Named platforms. Acknowledged her own complicity. And then, unexpectedly, one of the senators, a former therapist herself, said, Ms. Reeves, thank you. Most of our hearings are filled with polished lobbying. You brought human consequences. The room shifted. Later, as votes were cast, Eliza stood in the hall, holding her breath. The measure passed. Not unanimously, but decisively. Headlines followed. Digital coaching faces regulation after grassroots testimony. Reclaim founder catalyzes new consumer protections. Eliza didn't celebrate. Not in the way she once might have. Instead, she walked outside into the cool Sacramento air, turned her phone to silent, and sat on a stone bench beneath an oak tree. Across from her, Carmen and Jake emerged from the building, both holding coffees. Jake lifted his cup to not lying, even when it's inconvenient. Eliza raised an invisible toast, and in that quiet, surrounded by history and turning pages, she felt something settle. Not pride, not even peace. Something older, like gravity, but kinder. The house was modest, hugged by cypress trees, with a sloping view of the Pacific. Eliza sat on the back porch, wrapped in a gray cardigan, hands curled around a mug of ginger tea. No cameras, no inbox alerts, just the sound of gulls, waves, and the slow breath of a life not curated. It had been 6 months since the bill passed. She still got emails, still showed up for Reclaim's core work, advising, mentoring, guiding curriculum. But she'd stepped down from leadership, not out of shame, out of necessity. This wasn't her movement anymore. It was bigger than her. Better for it. Students from the Ground Zero cohort had taken over program design. Ava, the once nervous participant who questioned if she was broken, now facilitated 2 groups and was applying to study trauma-informed education. One of her recent emails read, "You didn't fix me. You reminded me that I didn't need to be fixed." That changed everything. Eliza had printed that one and taped it beside her desk. Today, the only thing on her calendar was a walk and a 1-hour class she taught once a week, quietly, online, under a different name. She clicked into the platform, headset on. 8 students. No fanfare, just human eyes. The module today, Reclaiming Inner Authority After Manipulation. She started simply. "Hi, I'm Eliza. I used to sell systems. Now I help people unlearn them." No one clapped. No one needed to. After the call, she turned off the computer, stepped outside, and wandered down the narrow footpath to the beach. The wind was gentle, the light silvering the water. For a long moment, she just stood, barefoot in the sand, salt in the air, the weight of movement without performance. Her phone buzzed once. She glanced at the screen. A message from Tom. Ava's starting her own course next month. No hype, just hope. She's calling it quiet bravery. Eliza smiled. She typed back, "That's the future. I'll be in the back row." She slipped the phone into her pocket and kept walking until the sounds of the world disappeared, leaving only the steady rhythm of waves and her own footsteps. No pitch, no promise, just presence, just breath, just home. She no longer craved applause. What she needed now was silence that didn't demand performance. Eliza had learned that healing isn't branded. It's not downloadable. It's slow, human, and rarely pretty. She had once sold illusions dressed as answers. Now, she chose presence over persuasion, honesty over optics. She hadn't reinvented herself. She'd simply stopped running. What she lost in followers, she gained in clarity. And somewhere, in the quiet, she discovered this. You don't have to become someone new to be whole. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is return to who you were before you were sold.